Have you ever wondered what a busy professional's day really looks like behind the polished LinkedIn profile and the packed calendar? From early morning routines and back-to-back meetings to handling unexpected challenges with confidence, today's episode takes you inside a realistic workday while helping you master the advanced English professionals use every day. You'll learn powerful C1 level vocabulary, natural workplace expressions, and common idioms that will make your English sound more fluent and confident in 1 hour. Whether you're preparing for an international career, improving your business English, or simply curious about modern professional life, this episode will sharpen both your language skills and your understanding of how successful people navigate demanding days. Let's step into their world.
You know, it is just a genuinely fascinating world to explore. I mean, we spend a massive portion of our adult lives navigating these professional environments, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But we rarely pause to analyze the actual mechanics of how we move through them.
We really don't. We just we just survive the day.
Exactly. Just try to get to the end of it.
Right. But for this deep dive, we're taking a completely different approach.
Mm-hmm.
We are literally walking through a single complete workday, chronologically.
Okay.
We're looking at the hidden architecture of productivity, the psychology of energy management, and the boundaries people build to protect their time.
Mm-hmm.
The goal here is to put the modern workday under a microscope, basically tracing the journey from the moment the alarm clock rings all the way to the moment your head hits the pillow at night.
And, the unique layer to our exploration today is the language itself. Because as we break down these concepts of time management and workplace psychology, we're going to highlight the advanced workplace idioms and that C1 level vocabulary that just naturally emerges.
Yeah, which is so important.
It is crucial to absorb these terms in their true context. Because, mastering professional English isn't just about memorizing a flashcard, right?
Right, definitely not.
It's about understanding the psychological reality that a specific word or phrase was literally invented to describe.
That is so true. Okay, so let's start right where the day begins, the launch sequence.
The launch sequence, I like that.
Yeah, the very first moments after waking up.
Right.
Because how you handle those first 20 minutes really seems to dictate the rhythm of the next 12 to 16 hours,
Oh, absolutely.
So we're looking at a marketing director named Sarah. She's down in Austin. And her alarm goes off at 5:45 a.m.
Early.
Very early.
Yeah.
But the detail that really stands out here is her absolute refusal to touch her smartphone. Like, she pointedly ignores it.
Yeah. And what Sarah is consciously avoiding there is this phenomenon of hijacking.
Hijacking.
Right. And in professional English, to hijack something, it doesn't just mean to steal an airplane anymore. We use it to describe an entity taking complete control of a process or like a person's attention by force.
Oh, okay.
So when you check your emails, the absolute second you open your eyes, you are essentially allowing your inbox to completely hijack your morning.
Because your brain is like barely out of a sleep state.
Exactly.
And suddenly it's processing demands from a client or, I don't know, a frustrated manager.
Yes. You are thrust immediately into reactive mode. And that phrase, reactive mode, is so central to corporate vocabulary.
Right. You hear that a lot.
You do. It describes a state where you are merely responding to external stimuli and, other people's emergencies rather than actually establishing your own priorities.
Wow. Yeah.
If you open your inbox at 6 a.m., you basically let the world dictate your first thought of the day. You've lost ownership of your morning before your feet have even touched the floor.
And it sets the tone for the entire day.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, sets the tone is a phrase we should unpack really quickly.
Sure.
Because it's used constantly in business to mean establishing the underlying mood or the rhythm of an event. Like if you start in reactive mode, it sets the tone for just a chaotic, breathless Tuesday,
Yeah, a Tuesday where you're just constantly playing catch up.
Exactly. So Sarah opts for a slow warm-up.
Yeah.
10 minutes of stretching, making coffee, sitting quietly. Not like some profound spiritual meditation, just a mental staging area.
Right.
But then, on the flip side, we look at James. He is a construction project manager.
Mm.
His alarm rings at 6 a.m., and by 6:30, he is already on a video call with an international subcontractor.
Wow.
Yeah. He's eating breakfast while pulling on his boots and scanning project management software. I mean, it sounds completely frenetic.
It does sound pretty intense.
So I kind of have to push back here.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always hear about the sanctity of the slow morning routine.
We do, yeah.
And walking into a demanding workday cold is like trying to sprint the absolute second you roll out of bed. It's a biological recipe for a pulled muscle.
That's a good analogy.
So if James's morning is that chaotic and immediate, isn't he just setting himself up for burnout?
Well, on the surface, it certainly looks that way. But high performance does not demand a universal, perfectly serene script.
Okay.
You don't have to drink matcha on a yoga mat to be successful.
Thank goodness.
Right. The unifying factor between Sarah's really slow morning and James's fast-paced morning is a really powerful C1 vocabulary word, and that is intentionality.
Intentionality, meaning doing something with deliberate purpose rather than just letting it happen to you.
Exactly. I mean, think about James. He coordinates multi-time zone construction sites.
Right.
A slow, silent hour of sipping tea would actually spike his cortisol levels.
Oh, because he's stressed about what he's missing.
Yes, because he knows his international teams are stalled, waiting for his approval. So he has designed his morning with intentionality to fit his specific reality.
That makes a lot of sense.
The ultimate goal of a morning routine isn't inner peace. It's psychological ownership.
Psychological ownership.
Yeah. Whether you're stretching or jumping straight onto a logistical call, if you chose that structure deliberately, you are the driver of your day, not a passenger.
Wow, that distinction really changes everything. It's about who is actually holding the steering wheel. And part of holding that wheel is how you plan the day's tasks. There's a strategy used during this morning phase called the rule of 3.
Yes, very common.
So when Sarah actually sits down at her desk to plan, she doesn't write down the 30 things she needs to do. She writes down just 3.
Because when everything feels urgent, nothing is prioritized.
Nothing.
Right. If you write down 30 tasks, you trigger a really well-documented psychological trap. The brain just gets overwhelmed by the sheer volume.
Oh, I've been there.
We all have. And so the brain naturally gravitates toward the easiest, least important tasks.
Like reorganizing a folder on your desktop?
Or answering a completely trivial email just to get that quick dopamine hit from crossing something off.
Exactly.
Selecting just 3 tasks forces absolute clarity. It demands that you identify the true needle movers for the day.
Okay, so our professional has established intentionality. They have their 3 core tasks. Now, they face the physical or mental transition to the workplace itself. So let's talk about the commute.
The dreaded commute.
Right, I ran some numbers on this. A typical city commute in London or Sydney is easily 40 minutes each way.
At least.
That translates to almost 10 hours a week sitting on a train or in traffic.
Right.
And it is incredibly easy to view that as just dead time to be survived.
It really is, and it's usually treated as a massive burden. But that time can actually be engineered into a huge competitive advantage.
Why so?
It can function as a portable classroom. Take Marcus, for example, a financial analyst in London. He spends 50 minutes on the tube twice a day, and he explicitly uses that environment to listen to dense industry breakdowns and read global market reports.
Yeah.
He actually views the underground train as a sanctuary.
A sanctuary?
Yeah, because the cellular signal drops and absolutely nobody can email him.
Ah, so he's leveraging the isolation.
Correct.
And this connects to a really great verb professionals use, accumulate. He is accumulating knowledge.
Yes, accumulate is crucial here.
Yeah.
Because it implies a gradual compounding growth over time.
Kind of like interest in a bank account.
Exactly like that. Marcus isn't frantically cramming for an exam. He is steadily accumulating an understanding of his industry, commute by commute.
Wow.
And this leads directly to another essential corporate term, bandwidth.
Oh, we hear bandwidth all the time. Usually when someone is, rejecting a project, like, I just don't have the bandwidth right now.
Right, exactly. It originates from computing, referring to the capacity of a network to transmit data, but when we apply it to human psychology, bandwidth refers to your mental and emotional capacity to process complex information or take on new challenges.
Okay.
By accumulating knowledge and mentally mapping out his day on the train, Marcus arrives at the office with significantly more mental bandwidth than a colleague who spent the last 50 minutes doom-scrolling social media.
Oh, definitely.
And because he has that bandwidth, he rarely feels blindsided.
Blindsided. Now that paints a very specific picture.
It does. It's a highly visual idiom. To be blindsided means to be completely surprised or caught off guard by a negative event.
Like in sports.
Yes, like a quarterback being tackled from the side he isn't looking at, his blind side.
Right.
A professional who uses their commute to survey the landscape of their day is rarely blindsided by sudden deadlines. They already saw the threat coming while they were on the train.
But, consider the massive shift in the modern workforce. Millions of people no longer have a physical commute.
Very true.
Their journey to work involves walking 15 feet from the bedroom to a laptop on the kitchen table. So how does a remote worker create that mental staging area without the physical journey?
This is actually a massive psychological challenge, and it has led to the development of what we call the fake commute.
The fake commute, basically walking to nowhere.
Essentially, yes. Because behavioral psychologists found that the physical displacement of the traditional commute wasn't actually the active ingredient.
Oh, really?
No, the active ingredient was the ritual of the boundary. The human brain relies heavily on environmental cues to shift gears from personal identity to professional identity.
That's fascinating.
So for remote workers, a fake commute might involve leaving the house, walking briskly around the block for 15 minutes, and then re-entering the home to sit at the desk.
Oh, yeah.
Or it might even be driving to a local coffee shop and coming straight back.
Just to provide that psychological separation.
Exactly.
So the commute, whether it's real or fake, is complete. You arrive at the desk, mentally warmed up. And then almost immediately, you are thrown into the most debated, heavily criticized aspect of corporate life. The morning meeting gauntlet.
Ugh, the gauntlet. And gauntlet is the perfect noun for that 9 a.m. to noon stretch.
It really is.
Historically, running the gauntlet meant running between two rows of people striking you as you passed.
Sounds about right for a Monday morning.
Doesn't it? Today, it describes enduring a grueling series of back-to-back challenges. And surveys across nearly all sectors confirm that professionals view the majority of these meetings as poorly structured or just entirely unnecessary.
We have all sat in that room or stared at a grid of faces on a video call, just watching the conversation drift aimlessly. And the C1 vocabulary word that perfectly captures this agony is meander.
Meander. It is a beautifully descriptive verb.
Yeah.
Originally, it described a river that winds and turns without a straight path. In business English, a meeting that meanders proceeds slowly, without clear direction.
It drifts through completely vague, unrelated topics.
Exactly, usually running way over the allotted time without any concrete decisions being made.
It is the ultimate drain on that bandwidth we just talked about.
Absolutely.
But there are ways to reform this culture. We look at Elena, she's a product manager in Berlin, and she implemented a ruthless filter for her team. A strict rule of 3 for meeting invitations.
I love this rule.
It's so good. If you want to put a meeting on someone's calendar, you must provide 3 things in the invite. A one-line purpose statement, the specific functional role of every single person invited, and the clear desired outcome of the gathering. Yeah, and if those 3 criteria aren't met, her rule is to decline the invite and request an email instead.
It's just a brilliant systemic boundary. It forces the person organizing the meeting to respect the collective bandwidth of the team.
Right, they have to do the hard work before the meeting starts.
Exactly. The cognitive work is done up front. And the result is that the total time spent in meetings drops significantly, while the actual strategic value of the remaining meetings skyrockets.
But even with good meetings, there is a micro habit around them that I find so fascinating. The meeting bookend technique.
Oh, yes. So to bookend something means to place a supportive structure at both the very beginning and the very end of an event.
Just like physical bookends hold of a row of books.
Exactly. High-performing professionals rigorously bookend their meetings. They dedicate 90 seconds before the call to review the agenda and their personal objectives.
Just 90 seconds.
Right. Then they spend 2 minutes immediately following the meeting to capture key decisions and assign action items.
So it is literally 3.5 minutes of total effort.
It is brief, but it prevents a catastrophic failure in execution. There is a common idiom for this, preventing things from falling through the cracks.
Falling through the cracks.
Yes. If a floorboard has gaps, small items fall through the cracks and are lost forever. In a busy workday, if you don't document action items the exact second a meeting ends, those commitments fall through the cracks of your working memory.
Oh, I've definitely done that. I'll write that down later. And then it's gone.
Gone forever. The 2-minute bookend guarantees that the time you just spent collaborating actually translates into tangible output.
We also need to look at the physiological toll of this gauntlet. Because this rapid-fire social engagement isn't just about time management, right? It is deeply tied to human energy systems.
Yes, and this brings us to the neurological differences in how introverts and extroverts process social stimuli.
Okay.
For an extrovert, a lively, collaborative meeting can trigger a dopamine release. They often feel genuinely energized by the room. But for an introvert, Rapid social switching consumes an enormous amount of metabolic energy. It rapidly depletes their cognitive battery.
Which makes sense.
So that makes the bookend technique doubly vital for introverts. It builds in a mandatory micro-recovery window, allowing their nervous system to recalibrate before diving into the next interaction.
Wow, so you survived the gauntlet, but while you were handling the meetings, a second front opened up. Because quietly, relentlessly, your computer has been accumulating chaos.
Chaos is the right word.
We are stepping into the communication crisis and the notification trap. The modern inbox is essentially a psychological battleground.
That is really not an overstatement. Studies indicate that the average knowledge worker checks their email, on average, 77 times per day.
77 times. That is insane.
It is a profound crisis of human attention. We have essentially normalized an environment where sustained concentration is almost impossible.
I mean, 77 times means you are practically never doing any single task for more than 5 or 6 minutes.
Exactly, and the neurological cost of that is severe. It introduces a critical concept known as attention residue.
Attention residue?
Yes, this is a vital noun phrase to understand. Attention residue means that even a fleeting 2-second glance at an email leaves a portion of your cognitive capacity stuck on that new topic.
Stuck, really?
Yes. Let's say you're writing a complex strategic report and a Slack notification pops up about a delayed shipment. Even if you tell yourself, oh, I'll handle that after I finish this report, a percentage of your brain's processing power is now trapped, subconsciously worrying about the delayed shipment.
Wow.
Your attention has residue left behind.
Which means the report you are writing suffers. You're giving it partial focus. And this leads to another major corporate term, context switching.
Context switching, yes. It's the act of rapidly shifting your brain between entirely different types of cognitive tasks.
Like going from writing a creative brief to answering a logistical query about a budget.
To messaging a colleague about a lunch order and then back to the brief.
It's exhausting to say it.
And the brain does not transition seamlessly. Every single switch requires a massive expenditure of energy to load the new rules and context. Constant context switching exhausts the prefrontal cortex and destroys deep productivity.
So the antidote is what the author Cal Newport popularized as deep work.
Deep work, yes, which is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is the exact type of effort that actually creates new value, solves intricate problems, and pushes a career forward. And the brutal truth of the modern office is this. Absolutely no one produces deep work while checking their inbox 77 times a day.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
So we look at David. He's a senior designer in Toronto. He tracked his time and realized he was bleeding over an hour a day just reading peripheral Slack channels that didn't even require his input.
Right.
But they distracted him nonetheless. So he made a radical choice. He muted every single channel except direct mentions from his immediate team. He basically built a digital fortress so he could reliably enter a flow state.
Flow state. That is a highly sought after psychological condition. It is a state of deep, effortless focus where you just lose track of time and your skills perfectly match the challenge at hand. But a flow state is incredibly fragile.
How fragile?
Well, it requires a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes of uninterrupted focus just to enter it. A single ping from a messaging app shatters the flow state entirely, completely resetting the clock.
See, I have to jump in with a massive reality check here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because it is wonderful for us to sit in this deep dive and discuss the virtues of deep work, right? But if you tell a junior analyst to just turn off notifications and go into a flow state, you might be telling them to commit career suicide.
That is a very fair point.
What if the culture of their specific company equates a 5-minute response time with dedication? What if the boss demands instant access? I mean, it's incredibly difficult to build these boundaries when the power dynamics are totally against you.
That is an excellent pushback, and it is honestly the hardest part of implementing these theories. You cannot simply go dark if your organization's culture is hyper-reactive. It requires a negotiated boundary. Often it means having a very deliberate and sometimes uncomfortable conversation with a manager. You have to present the trade-off logically.
Like how?
You might say, look, I am working on the quarterly forecast. To ensure it's flawless, I need to go offline for 90 minutes. If there is a true emergency, please call my cell phone.
Oh, so you are basically training them on how to access you.
Yes. You are moving from reactive availability to proactive communication. Experienced professionals establish scheduled communication windows.
Right.
They might dedicate 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes after lunch, and 15 minutes at the end of the day to blitz through their inbox. Outside of those windows, the inbox is closed.
That takes guts.
It requires courage, yes, but eventually bosses prefer the brilliant, error-free forecast over the instant Slack reply.
That's a great point. And as we move through the day after a morning of deep work in the meeting gauntlet, biology inevitably demands attention. The brain needs fuel.
It does.
So let's look at the most neglected hour of the professional day. Lunchtime. Why does corporate culture still harbor this bizarre assumption that eating a sad salad at your keyboard while staring at a spreadsheet demonstrates exceptional dedication, while taking a proper break outside is viewed as slacking off?
It stems from an industrial era hangover.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we mistakenly view the human brain through the metaphor of a machine. We assume that a machine produces more output the longer it remains switched on. Therefore, a brain will produce more value the longer it stares at a screen.
But the brain isn't a machine.
Not at all. It is a biological battery. It consumes massive amounts of glucose, especially during deep work. It requires periodic, deliberate recharging to sustain its output quality.
A battery that is continuously drained without being plugged in will eventually die.
Precisely.
We see this with Priya, a corporate lawyer in Mumbai. She fell into the desk lunch trap, working through her breaks every single day just to bill more hours.
A very common trap in law.
Right. But a senior partner pulled her aside and told her she was actually damaging her long-term prospects. So she started leaving her desk to eat in the break room or at a nearby cafe with colleagues. And she found it completely transformed her trajectory at the firm.
Because informal networks often outweigh formal hierarchies.
Oh, wow. Oh.
By stepping away from her desk, Priya tapped into the shadow structure of the company. Over lunch, she heard about unannounced projects, she deciphered the underlying office politics, and most importantly, she built genuine trust with peers across different departments.
So she was recharging her cognitive battery while simultaneously advancing her career through authentic human connection.
Exactly.
And beyond the social aspect, there's a vocabulary word we really need to highlight regarding physical movement during the day.
Yeah.
Because many high performers are absolutely evangelical about taking a midday walk.
Yes, the adjective evangelical.
Yeah.
Outside of its traditional religious context, professionals use evangelical to describe someone who is fiercely enthusiastic and highly vocal about promoting a specific habit or tool.
And they are evangelical about midday walks because the physiology completely backs it up.
It does.
Stepping away from the screen and moving physically metabolizes the cortisol that's built up from morning stress. It increases oxygen flow to the brain, and it measurably restores the prefrontal cortex's capacity for afternoon problem solving.
It's like hitting a biological reset button.
Now, obviously, realism matters here. There are days when a major client is threatening to pull a contract or a critical deadline is 90 minutes away and you literally have absolutely no choice but to eat your sandwich with one hand while typing with the other.
Certainly. There are moments when you have to rely on an idiom we use quite often, pushing through.
Pushing through.
Yes. To push through means to continue exerting effort despite exhaustion, difficulty, or a really strong desire to stop.
Right.
But the critical distinction between a sustainable high performer and someone careening toward burnout is this. The high performer understands that pushing through is an emergency protocol, not a daily operating system.
An emergency protocol.
Yes. They rigorously protect their lunchtime recharge most days, specifically so that on the rare occasion they must push through, they actually have the internal reserves required to do it.
Because if you don't protect those reserves, the afternoon is going to crush you.
It will.
Which leads us perfectly to the afternoon grind and hitting the 3 p.m. wall. We all know this exact sensation.
Oh, intimately.
You come back from lunch, you feel reasonably capable for an hour, and then around 3 p.m., the gravity in the room just seems to double.
It really does.
An email that would have taken 2 minutes to answer at 9 a.m. suddenly feels like a monumental, insurmountable task.
The 3 p.m. wall is a very real phenomenon occurring at the intersection of biological rhythm and cognitive depletion.
Okay, break that down for us.
The biological component is driven by our circadian rhythm. That noun phrase refers to the 24-hour internal clock running in the background of your brain, regulating cycles of alertness and sleepiness. Humans are biologically hardwired to experience a slight dip in core body temperature and an increase in sleep signals in the early to mid-afternoon. Your biology is quite literally suggesting that it is time for a nap.
That explains so much. And what about the cognitive side of the wall?
The cognitive side is governed by a C1 concept called decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue.
Yes. This is the deteriorating quality of decisions made by an individual after a long session of decision-making. By 3 p.m., you have made hundreds, perhaps thousands of micro-decisions.
Like how to phrase an email or whether to speak up in a meeting.
Or how to prioritize a conflict. Exactly. Every single choice drains a tiny fraction of the brain's executive function. Decision fatigue means your brain is tired of choosing.
Wow.
Which is exactly why you either start making reckless decisions at 3 p.m. or you completely procrastinate on simple tasks.
So if we know this wall is practically inevitable, how do successful professionals navigate it? We look at Tom, a logistics manager in Ohio. He utilizes a method called time blocking to hack this reality.
Time blocking is a highly effective noun phrase in practice. It involves dividing your day into distinct blocks of time, each dedicated to accomplishing a specific task or category of tasks.
So Tom maps his schedule directly onto his biological energy curve.
Yes.
He knows his prefrontal cortex is sharpest at 9 a.m., so he time blocks his most complex logistical modeling for the morning.
Smart.
And he fully expects the decision fatigue of the 3 p.m. wall, so he time blocks his lowest stakes administrative work for the afternoon. Filing expense reports, sorting his inbox, attending routine update calls. He doesn't try to force deep work when his brain is biologically opposed to it.
Working with his biology and not against it.
But let's introduce some friction here. Because no matter how brilliantly you time block your calendar, chaos is undefeated.
Always.
A server crashes at 3:30 p.m. A key supplier goes bankrupt. How does a professional handle chaos when their battery is already flashing red?
That is the ultimate test of a professional's mettle, and it really comes down to emotional regulation.
Emotional regulation.
Yes. When an unexpected crisis hits late in the day, a novice absorbs the anxiety of the room. They panic, their heart rate spikes, and they react impulsively.
Right.
An experienced professional does the exact opposite. They consciously step back from the emotional vortex. They assess what is truly at risk and triage the situation. They mentally separate what is within their control from what is outside of it, and they systematically execute solutions without absorbing the panic.
It is the difference between running around a flooded room with a tiny bucket versus calmly walking over and turning off the main water valve.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the end of the traditional workday. As 5:00 or 6 p.m. approaches, you face a surprisingly difficult juncture. How to actually stop working. And it is staggering how many intelligent people are terrible at stopping.
It is a modern epidemic, frankly, and it's heavily exacerbated by smartphones. We see the rise of the perpetual worker.
A perpetual worker.
Yes, the person who is drafting strategy memos at 10 p.m. from the couch or monitoring Slack channels while stirring pasta on the stove.
Yeah, we all know that person.
Right.
Or we are that person.
Organizations often quietly applaud this as dedication, but psychologically, it is a profound failure of boundaries.
Because there is a massive gulf between just stopping and genuinely finishing. If you just slam your laptop shut out of exhaustion, the work doesn't stay on the desk. It follows you into your evening like a ghost.
It haunts you.
This is where we really need to examine the shutdown ritual.
A shutdown ritual is a deliberate, structured routine performed at the very end of the workday to signal to your brain that professional obligations are concluded.
Okay.
It usually takes 10 to 15 minutes. You review your task list from the day. You migrate unfinished items to tomorrow's schedule. You check your calendar for the next morning to ensure there are no early surprises.
Right.
And finally, you make a conscious, sometimes verbal declaration that work is over. Some professionals actually close their laptop and say aloud, "Shutdown complete."
We have a really compelling example of this with Natasha, an HR director in Chicago.
Yeah.
She struggled severely with racing thoughts at night.
Very common.
She would lie awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, her mind just obsessively looping over the conversations and tasks awaiting her the next day.
Her experience is incredibly common, and it makes perfect neurological sense. It is tied to something called the Zeigarnik effect.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Yes, which is the brain's tendency to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks much better than completed ones.
It's like your brain operates as a deeply anxious personal assistant.
I love that.
Right. Like if you don't write down the tasks for tomorrow, your assistant doesn't trust that you will remember them. So the assistant keeps tapping you on the shoulder at 2 a.m., whispering, "Hey, don't forget to email Steve about the budget. Hey, don't forget to review the legal contract."
That is a wonderful analogy. The shutdown ritual is how you formally relieve that assistant of their duties for the night.
Oh, I see.
By externalizing the worry, by writing everything down and securing a solid plan for tomorrow, you close those open loops. The assistant can finally rest.
Wow.
And this prevents the mental residue of the office from bleeding into your discretionary time.
Discretionary time. Now that is a great corporate phrase.
Yes. Discretionary time is a noun phrase denoting time that is entirely under your own control, to be used exactly as you see fit, completely free from professional or external obligations.
So by implementing a strict shutdown ritual, you basically guard your discretionary time.
You do.
And there is an idiom professionals use when they execute this well: leaving tomorrow in good shape.
Ah, yes. To leave things in good shape means to organize and prepare a situation so that it is manageable and structured for the future.
Right.
When you shut down properly, you leave tomorrow in good shape, allowing you to walk away with a totally clear conscience.
So the laptop is closed and the professional is home. But as anyone with a busy life knows, the evening isn't always a serene retreat. Often, it is just a different flavor of project management.
Very true.
We're moving into the evening phase, replenishment and big picture thinking.
For many people, the evening hours are dominated by what we call life administration.
Life admin.
Right. You're managing children's schedules, preparing meals, maintaining a household, perhaps caring for aging parents. It requires the exact same executive functioning skills as your day job: prioritization, crisis management, and emotional labor.
But buried within that evening chaos, there is a psychological necessity that high performers eventually learn they absolutely cannot ignore. It revolves around a crucial C1 phrase: intrinsic enjoyment.
Intrinsic enjoyment. This is the pleasure derived from engaging in an activity purely for its own sake, without any desire for an external reward, productivity gain, or status enhancement.
It is the complete antithesis of the corporate mindset.
Complete.
It's playing the piano badly just because you like how the keys feel, or reading a fantasy novel that teaches you absolutely nothing about leadership or market trends.
Precisely. In a culture obsessed with optimizing every second, doing something quote-unquote unproductive feels unnatural.
That does feel weird.
But high performers engage in intrinsic enjoyment because it is the only mechanism to genuinely replenish finite internal resources. Yes. To replenish means to fill something up again after it has been emptied. Willpower is a finite resource. Patience is finite. Creative capacity is finite.
And you spend those resources all day at the office and dealing with life administration.
Exactly. Intrinsic enjoyment is how you refill those tanks for the next day.
The evening is also the critical space for an idiom I use all the time: stepping back.
Stepping back.
Yeah. When you're at work, you are zoomed in. You are staring at a spreadsheet 1 inch from your face. The evening is when you have the quiet to step back and look at the whole room. Because if you never step back to evaluate your trajectory, you run the terrifying risk of waking up a decade from now, looking at your life and wondering how you ended up there. Uninterrupted conversations with a spouse, or quiet reflection on a porch, they restore that overarching perspective. They serve as a reminder that your job title is just a subset of your identity, not the entirety of it.
That perspective is the ultimate safeguard against profound burnout. It anchors you to reality.
And finally, the day ends exactly where the next one begins: in bed. We have to address the most pervasive toxic myth in modern professional culture. The myth of the executive who sleeps 4 hours a night and claims, "I'll sleep when I'm dead."
It is arguably the most destructive narrative in business today. It equates biological self-harm with dedication.
We have an idiom that perfectly describes this behavior: burning the candle at both ends.
A very common idiom.
If you literally light a candle at both the top and the bottom, it burns twice as bright and produces twice as much light, but it melts into a puddle of wax twice as fast. Treating sleep deprivation as a badge of honor is burning the candle at both ends. And the data you highlighted regarding this is not just surprising, it is genuinely alarming.
It should serve as a stark warning to anyone listening right now. The neurological science is undeniable. The cognitive impairment caused by insufficient sleep is functionally identical to alcohol intoxication. If you stay awake for 17 straight hours, which, by the way, is a completely standard day for a professional who wakes up at 5 a.m. and works or handles family duties until 10 p.m., your cognitive performance, reaction time, and judgment drop to the exact equivalent of having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%.
Which means your brain is operating as if you've had a couple of drinks.
And it gets worse. If you pull an all-nighter to finish a project, hitting 24 hours without sleep, your cognitive capacity mirrors a blood alcohol level of 0.10%.
That is past the threshold of legal intoxication in almost every jurisdiction on Earth.
It is.
We would immediately fire someone who showed up to manage a corporate merger or direct a marketing campaign while legally drunk, yet we praise the person who does it while profoundly sleep-deprived, even though their brain is operating at the exact same degraded level.
It is a massive blind spot in corporate culture, and it totally ignores what actually happens when we sleep. Sleep is not a passive state of shutting down. It is an intensely active state of neurological maintenance. Firstly, sleep is when the brain consolidates learning.
Consolidates.
Yes, the verb to consolidate means to combine things to make them stronger and more solid. During deep sleep, the brain processes all the disparate information, conversations, and skills you encountered during the day and consolidates them into long-term memory.
It is also a physical cleaning process, isn't it?
It is. During sleep, the brain's glymphatic system literally flushes out metabolic waste products like amyloid beta that build up during waking hours.
Oh.
If you cut your sleep short, you are effectively forcing your brain to operate in a toxic, unorganized environment the next day. And the really insidious part is that the damage occurs chronically.
Chronically, meaning constantly, over a long period.
Yes, as opposed to an acute, sudden injury. You might not notice the cognitive decline after one bad night, but chronic sleep deprivation begins eroding your fundamental health. To erode means to gradually wear away or destroy something, much like ocean waves eroding a cliff face over decades.
Right.
Chronic lack of sleep slowly erodes your cardiovascular resilience, your immune system's efficiency, and your baseline emotional stability.
We look at the story of Michael, a surgeon in Boston. In the medical field, working back-to-back 24-hour shifts was historically the ultimate test of endurance and dedication.
Very much so.
But Michael confronted the hard data. Sleep-deprived surgeons make statistically more errors, their fine motor skills degrade, and their diagnostic judgment is heavily compromised. He realized a profound truth. Prioritizing his own sleep wasn't an act of selfishness. It was an act of duty to his patients.
It is a radical reframing. He decided to make a full night's sleep non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
That compound adjective non-negotiable means a standard or rule that is absolutely not open to debate or modification. Exactly. By treating sleep as non-negotiable, he recognized that rest is not a luxury. Sleep is competence. If you genuinely care about the quality of the work you produce, you must rigorously protect the quality of the sleep that enables it.
Which brings us to our grand synthesis. We have traveled the full arc of the day, from the 5:45 a.m. alarm, through the commute, the meetings, the inbox, the afternoon sump, all the way back to the pillow.
It's a long journey.
It is. And what emerges from this deep dive is a clear realization that the texture of a professional life is not merely about checking items off a to-do list. It is about navigating a complex, ongoing series of trade-offs.
Absolutely.
Every single hour you allow a meeting to meander is an hour stolen from deep work. Every minute you surrender to a hijacking inbox is a minute taken away from creative, strategic thinking. And every evening you sacrifice to your laptop on the couch is time stolen from your family, from your intrinsic enjoyment, and from the deep sleep that guarantees your competence for tomorrow.
That is the overarching reality. And if you were listening to this and you recognized yourself in these scenarios, if you felt a pang of familiarity when we discussed the exhaustion of the 3 p.m. wall, the anxiety of the notification trap, or the heavy burden of a brain that refuses to shut down at night, I want to fully validate that experience.
Yeah.
You are entirely normal. Every ambitious person navigating the modern professional landscape grapples with these exact same systemic pressures. But the fact that you took the time today to listen, to understand these underlying psychological mechanics while simultaneously absorbing C1 level English vocabulary, well, it demonstrates an exceptional level of intentionality. It shows a commitment to working wisely, not just enduring the grind.
I couldn't agree more. You are actively accumulating the bandwidth necessary to take control of your own professional narrative. As we conclude this deep dive into the architecture of the workday, we want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to mull over. When you reflect on the structure of your own typical working day, which specific moment or hour would you most want to reclaim, and what extraordinary thing would you do with it?
That's a great question to end on.
Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. So, think about this for a second. If you knew that the first 60 minutes of your day quietly dictated how the remaining 23 hours were going to unfold, would you change how you spend them?
I mean, it's a profound question, right? Because for most of us, we really just treat those first 60 minutes as something to survive.
Yeah,
We're literally just trying to get through them. And usually we're in the state of, mild panic or just severe fatigue.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this today, because for years, the alarm clock has basically been the enemy for most of us.
Oh, without a doubt.
It feels like a rescue mission every single morning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like the alarm goes off and you are instantly on the defensive.
It's just bracing for impact.
Totally. The coffee is your life raft. And before you are even fully upright in bed, you have already absorbed, 3 arguments on social media, 2 global disasters, and maybe an email from a boss who is clearly as exhausted as you are.
Which is just a brutal way to start.
It really is. And by 9 in the morning, you are already completely drained. And what's wild is that it has absolutely nothing to do with a lack of sleep.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
So our mission today for this deep dive is to look at a really fascinating stack of behavioral science, some chronotype research, and real-life case studies that are all centered around this elusive concept of the morning routine.
And we have some incredible data to go through today.
We really do. But let me be incredibly clear right out of the gate here. For you, the learner listening to this right now, we are entirely skipping those toxic, overwhelming, Instagram perfect morning routines.
Oh, please, yes. Let's leave those entirely behind. I mean, we really need to validate the actual struggle of the listener here, because waking up is biologically and psychologically jarring.
It really is.
The overarching biological context we need to establish from our research today is this. The morning isn't just a slice of time on a clock. It is a psychological runway.
A psychological runway. I love that.
Yeah, because the thoughts, the neurochemicals, the physical choices you make in those early minutes are quite literally setting the physiological tone for everything that follows.
I really appreciate that runway image, because it implies that if the runway is full of potholes, if you haven't cleared the debris, the takeoff is going to be incredibly bumpy.
Absolutely.
Like no matter what kind of plane you are flying or how well you slept the night before, if the runway is a mess, the flight is going to be rough.
Spot on. And to understand why that runway matters so much, we have to look at the neurology of the waking brain.
Okay, let's get into the brain science.
So when you first open your eyes, your brain is in this remarkably soft, suggestible state. What's happening biologically is just this massive shift in hormones.
Right.
Your body initiates something called the cortisol awakening response.
The cortisol awakening response.
Yes. So cortisol levels are naturally rising, just flooding your system. Now, cortisol, it gets a bad reputation as the stress hormone, right?
Yeah, people always talk about lowering cortisol.
Totally. But in the morning, it is actually supposed to spike. It is your body's built-in alarm system. It's designed to raise your blood pressure slightly, increase your blood sugar for energy, and just physically wake you up.
Right, so the engine is turning on, the revs are going up.
Exactly. I mean, yes, absolutely.
But the problem is, while the engine is revving, the steering wheel isn't fully attached yet, is it? Because the sources mention that the prefrontal cortex is still offline.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it, yeah. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the rational planning, executive functioning, consequence weighing part of your brain, is still booting up.
It's basically asleep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It experiences what we call sleep inertia. It takes actual time for the blood flow and the electrical activity in that specific region to reach optimal waking levels.
So waking up and immediately checking social media or the news is basically like letting 100 screaming strangers into your bedroom while you're still in your pajamas.
What a terrifying thought, but yeah, that's spot on.
Like, the bouncer hasn't arrived at the club yet, the doors are just wide open, and your brain has zero defense mechanism to filter out what's actually important and what's just noise.
Without a doubt. And what's fascinating here is this concept of the mind being like wet cement during this window.
Wet cement?
Yeah, because that rational filter in the prefrontal cortex isn't fully active to say, hey, this headline is just clickbait, or this email from your coworker isn't actually a fire you need to put out.
It just accepts it all as reality.
Right. Whatever input your mind receives first sticks intensely. It completely bypasses the logical filter and goes straight to the amygdala, which is your emotional processing center.
Wow.
If you step in that wet cement early, the footprint hardens, and that footprint literally becomes your baseline mood for the entire day.
That makes the case study about Daniela from our sources completely click for me. I mean, Danielle is a perfect example of this wet cement theory in action.
Oh, for sure. Her story is so common.
It really is. So her habit was to begin every single morning by grabbing her phone from the nightstand and scrolling for 30 minutes while still lying in the dark under the covers.
Just letting the blue light hit her eyes.
Yeah, right away. And she reported feeling incredibly anxious, quote, for no reason by the time she walked into the kitchen to make breakfast.
But of course, biologically speaking, there is a massive reason. Her amygdala was on fire.
Right. Her brain, in its most vulnerable wet cement state, had just spent half an hour absorbing a barrage of digital stimuli. She was taking in notifications, social comparisons, aggressive headlines, maybe micro-rejections before her feet even touched the floor.
It's like putting your nervous system through a blender.
She was essentially programming her nervous system to anticipate a threat. And the incredible part of her story is that when she finally stopped doing that, and she didn't replace it with anything fancy,
Right, she didn't become a monk overnight.
Exactly. I mean, absolutely not. She didn't start a rigorous meditation practice. She simply stopped the scrolling. And she said it felt like a physical stone had been lifted off her chest.
Because she stopped dictating her baseline mood for chaos. You see, that baseline emotional default is what you carry into your morning meetings, your conversations with your spouse, your driving commute.
It colors everything.
It does. It sets your threshold for reactivity. And the empowering takeaway here is that this baseline isn't fixed. It is highly trainable.
So you have a choice.
You do. You can deliberately design that first hour so the rest of your day inherits calm and focus instead of inheriting this heightened, frantic state of defense.
If we know our brains are this incredibly vulnerable in the morning, I think the immediate instinct for a lot of overachievers, and I know I've definitely fallen into this trap, is to think, well, I need to wake up before the rest of the world. If I want to protect my wet cement, I need to wake up at 4 a.m. before the emails start and the kids wake up.
Ah, yes. The legendary 4.0 a.m. club. The absolute hallmark of hustle culture.
Yes. The myth of the millionaire 4.00 a.m. routine is so pervasive. It's almost become a moral imperative in the business world.
No, it really is.
You know the script. You wake up before dawn, run 10 kilometers, drink 20 ounces of celery juice, journal for an hour, sit in an ice bath, and have inbox zero by 6:15 a.m.
Just exhausting to even hear.
It sounds heroic, but honestly, it also sounds deeply punishing for most normal human beings.
Yeah.
But the research completely debunks this necessity, doesn't it?
It undeniably debunks it. And this is where we really have to look at the hard science of chronotypes.
Chronotypes, let's dig into that.
So this isn't just about whether you prefer the morning or the evening. It is deeply rooted biological hardwiring. You have a cluster of thousands of cells in your hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus.
That's a mouthful. Suprachiasmatic nucleus.
Yeah, SCN for short. It acts as your body's master clock. And genetic variations, like the PER3 gene, actually dictate your natural chronotype.
So it's in our DNA.
Absolutely. They dictate your natural variation in alertness, your core body temperature fluctuations, and when your body naturally releases melatonin.
So we're talking about the biological difference between a morning lark, who is genuinely sharp and ready to go at sunrise, and a night owl, whose biological systems just don't fully come online until much later in the day.
That's right. And society tends to moralize this biological reality. We have this inherited cultural bias, likely from agrarian times in the Industrial Revolution, that the early riser is virtuous, disciplined, and hardworking.
Right. The early bird gets the worm.
Totally. And the flip side is that the night owl is somehow lazy or lacking ambition, which is just biologically absurd.
Which is incredibly unfair to half the population. It's like telling someone they're lazy because they have blue eyes. It's literally genetics.
It is scientifically baseless to moralize it. Forcing a natural night owl into a 4.0 a.m. schedule does not create a highly effective CEO.
What does it create?
It creates an exhausted, resentful person operating in a state of chronic sleep deprivation. Their body is quite literally fighting its own circadian rhythm.
Wow.
When a night owl forces a 4.0 a.m. wake-up, they are interrupting their deepest phases of REM sleep, which usually occur in that final third of the night.
There is a brilliant, almost tragic, comical example of this from one of the researchers in our stack. This individual read way too many of those millionaire morning productivity books and decided to just run an experiment on themselves.
I remember this one.
Yeah. They set their alarm for 4.45 a.m. for 3 weeks straight. And they admit in their notes, for the first 4 days, they felt heroic. They felt like they were conquering the world while everyone else slept.
The honeymoon phase.
Exactly. But by week 2, the biological toll came due. They started falling asleep during afternoon strategy meetings. Worse, they started snapping at their partner for the most trivial, irrational things.
I recall reading that. I believe the breaking point was over the specific way their partner was stirring a cup of tea.
Yes. The sound of the spoon hitting the ceramic mug became this massive, unbearable source of irritation for them.
Which is wild.
It is. And that right there is a glaring sign of a nervous system that is completely fraying. When the sound of a spoon makes you want to yell, your prefrontal cortex is failing to regulate your emotional responses.
It's out of gas.
Totally out of gas. The body was rebelling against the forced schedule, literally mimicking the symptoms of a mild traumatic brain injury or mild intoxication, which is what severe sleep deprivation does.
Yeah, the cognitive decline is real.
And their personal relationships were paying the price. So what does this all mean for the listener who constantly feels guilty for hitting the snooze button until 7:00 or 7:30 a.m.?
It means you can completely, unequivocally let go of that guilt. The magic of a transformative morning routine is not when you wake up. It is entirely about what you do when you wake up.
What you do, not when you do it.
Spot on. A structured, intentional 7:30 a.m. morning undeniably beats a chaotic, frantic 5:00 a.m. morning every single time. The goal of this deep dive isn't to teach you how to imitate a billionaire's biological clock. It is to give you the tools to build a morning that fits your actual life and your actual chronotype.
But the early risers, the ones who genuinely thrive at dawn, they do get one critical thing right. They have a non-negotiable opening sequence.
Yes, the routine itself.
A set of actions they do every day, regardless of motivation, regardless of the weather. And the behavioral sources we're analyzing are unanimous on this point. The very first step of that opening sequence, before you add any positive habits, must be eliminating the most common destructive habit modern humans share.
We are back to the glowing rectangle.
The smartphone. It is the elephant in the bedroom.
It really is.
Most adults touch their phone before they touch their partner, before they grab a glass of water, often before they're even fully sitting up in bed. We blindly reach out to the nightstand to find it, like a reflex.
And on the surface, we rationalize it brilliantly, don't we?
Oh, for sure. I'm just checking the time.
Exactly. We tell ourselves we are just checking the time, or checking the weather, or making sure there are no emergency texts from family. But underneath that rationalization, something neurologically destructive is taking place.
What's actually happening in the brain?
To understand why this is so damaging, we have to look at the brainwave spectrum, specifically theta wave activity.
This was the part of the research that completely blew my mind. Walk us through these brainwaves, because I think most people assume you were either asleep or awake, like flipping a light switch. But it's actually a spectrum, right?
It is absolutely a spectrum. When you are in deep restorative sleep, your brain is producing slow delta waves.
Okay, delta is deep sleep.
Right. Then when you are wide awake, stressed, or highly focused on a complex task, you are producing fast beta waves.
Beta is busy.
Beta is very busy. But when you transition from sleep to wakefulness, that groggy twilight phase of the morning, your brain enters a state characterized by theta waves and then alpha waves.
The twilight phase. Yeah. The theta state is a deeply relaxed, highly creative, fluid state of consciousness. It's almost a meditative mode. The barriers between your subconscious and conscious mind are very thin here.
So this neurological window is where profound interiority happens. It's where the dots connect.
Absolutely.
It's where writers suddenly figure out a tricky sentence they were stuck on, or where an engineer finds the answer to a coding problem that bothered them the day before.
Yes, because the brain is freely associating without the strict, rigid filters of the waking beta state. It is where you process emotions and find a bit of genuine inner peace.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, reaching for the phone completely snatches this fragile neurological window away.
It obliterates it.
You instantly, violently yank your brain out of theta wave activity and thrust it directly into high alert beta waves.
That's the mechanism, yeah. You bypass the gentle transition entirely. You replace reflection with immediate, high-stakes reactivity.
Reactivity over reflection.
Spot on. Before you have even taken a deep breath or stretched your legs, your cognitive load is maxed out. You are hijacked by other people's priorities, other people's drama, and algorithms deliberately designed by neurologists to induce a mild stress response so you keep scrolling.
There is a powerful story in the sources about a man named Marcus. He was a corporate colleague who always checked his email in bed.
I think we all know a Marcus.
Totally. He told himself it was efficient, that he was getting ahead of the day, clearing the deck before he even got to the office.
Such a common trap.
But the reality was that he was generating intense mental fog. He was walking into his 9:00 a.m. meetings with his cognitive battery already depleted, his head completely filled with other people's emergencies.
Because he already worked a full shift in bed.
Exactly. He couldn't focus on deep work, and his own creative writing, which was his passion outside of work, completely dried up.
Because he never gave his brain the space to be creative. Creativity requires a void, a moment of stillness where ideas can bubble up. Marcus filled the void instantly with reactivity and triage.
But when he finally moved the phone out of his bedroom, he physically removed the temptation by charging it in the kitchen and set a hard rule to stop checking email until he was physically sitting at his desk at 9 a.m. The mental fog cleared.
It's amazing how quickly the brain bounces back.
It really is. His creative writing came back. His patience with his team came back. He didn't sleep any longer. He just protected his theta window.
That's the key.
So to you, the learner listening right now, you do not need to throw your smartphone in a river to fix this. You don't need a dumb phone. It is just about reclaiming the first 30 minutes of your day, or even the first 15. Claim your own mind before you let the world claim it.
It is a simple, gentle rule of thumb, but undeniably the most vital one we will discuss today. The first minutes of the day belong to you, not your screen.
Okay, so we've put the phone down. We are letting the wet cement dry in peace. We are enjoying our theta waves. But eventually, we do have to wake up and function.
We can't stay in bed forever.
Right. We need a new sequence to replace the scrolling. And the sources suggest 3 physical non-negotiables that I absolutely love because they cost $0, require no subscriptions, and take less than 10 minutes combined.
They are completely accessible.
Instead of looking at a screen, we have to look at the body's actual mechanical hardware.
We are talking about light, water, and movement. The ultimate trio of biological wake-up signals for the human body.
Let's dive deep into the mechanism of the first one, light. The recommendation is getting natural daylight in your eyes within 30 minutes of waking up. Why is looking out a window or stepping onto a porch so much more effective than just turning on the bright overhead lights in my bathroom?
It comes down to the sheer lux value, the intensity of the light, and specific photoreceptors in your eyes called melanopsin ganglion cells.
Melanopsin ganglion cells.
Yes. These cells are highly sensitive to sunlight, even on a cloudy day. The lux value of outdoor light, even through heavy cloud cover, is exponentially higher than standard indoor artificial lighting.
So indoor lights just aren't strong enough.
Not even close. When that natural light hits your retina, it sends a decisive high-speed electrical signal directly to that suprachiasmatic nucleus we talked about earlier.
The master clock in the brain.
Correct. And that signal tells the clock to immediately halt the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone. It essentially says, the day has officially begun. Clear the sleep chemicals, turn on the alerting hormones.
That makes sense.
But what's truly amazing, and this is a vital piece of the puzzle, is that anchoring your circadian rhythm this way in the morning actually dictates your sleep quality that same night.
It's a 2-for-1 biological hack.
It really is.
By getting light at 7:30 a.m., you are setting a biological timer that tells your body to start producing melatonin again around 14 to 16 hours later.
Yeah.
So you feel more energetic at 3 p.m. when everyone else is crashing, and you fall asleep easier at 11:00 p.m.
It stabilizes the whole cycle.
Okay, the second physical signal is water. We've just gone 7 or 8 hours without drinking anything.
Right. Regardless of how cool your bedroom is, you are waking up mildly dehydrated every single day.
Even if I don't sweat.
Even then, you experience what is called insensible water loss. You lose moisture through your respiration every time you exhale, and through mild sweating, you might not even notice. This leads to a drop in your blood plasma volume.
Okay, a drop in blood plasma volume. Why does that matter for how I feel when I wake up?
Because when your blood volume drops, your blood literally becomes thicker. It becomes more viscous.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so your heart has to work harder to pump it, and circulation becomes much less efficient. This means less oxygen is being delivered rapidly to your brain and your muscle tissues.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And here is the uncanny reality that we often completely overlook. This physiological state of mild dehydration mimics the symptoms of severe fatigue and brain fog almost perfectly.
That is wild. So when we wake up feeling incredibly groggy and heavy, we immediately think, I'm so tired, I didn't sleep enough, I need a massive cup of coffee. But our body's actually screaming, my blood volume is low, I need water.
Absolutely. We constantly misinterpret the biological signal. A simple, large glass of room temperature water, and room temperature, is easier for the body to absorb quickly than ice-cold water, by the way. Rehydrates the blood, supports circulation, kickstarts your digestion, and quietly wakes up your internal organs.
Just a glass of water.
It is incredibly simple, but if you do this consistently before any other beverage, you will notice a much steadier energy curve and a significant reduction in those random afternoon tension headaches.
And the third physical signal is movement. Now, the sources are very clear to distinguish this from a full-blown workout.
Yes, very important distinction.
Movement does not mean a 5-mile run or a grueling HIE class.
No.
We are not talking about exercise in the traditional sweaty gym clothes sense.
No, the physiological message to the brain simply needs to be, we are awake and the musculoskeletal system is online.
Got it.
When you sleep, you are largely immobile. Your joints can become stiff because the synovial fluid, the natural lubricant in your joints, thickens overnight.
So we need to grease the wheels.
Spot on. Movement warms up that fluid. You want a gentle heart rate bump to increase blood flow and release a small initial wave of endorphins to boost your mood.
The Japanese have a deeply ingrained cultural practice for this, don't they?
Yes, they do. It's called radio taiso, which translates to radio calisthenics. Since the 1920s, short, gentle stretching routines have been broadcast on national radio and television in Japan every single morning.
Like whole country participation.
Pretty much. It is nothing dramatic or intense, just simple arm circles, bending, reaching for the sky, twisting the torso. But entire generations, especially older adults, swear by its profound impact on their longevity, daily mobility, and communal well-being.
That's amazing.
It is a perfect demonstration that consistency undeniably beats intensity when it comes to morning movement.
I have to ask, though, plain devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I completely get the water, and I get the mechanism of the light hitting the retina. But for movement, does dancing in my kitchen in my pajamas while making my kids' lunches actually count biologically? Or do I need to be doing formal radio taiso stretches on a yoga mat?
It absolutely counts. The biology of your body does not care about the optics.
So it doesn't know I'm in my pajamas.
It doesn't care if you are on a Lululemon yoga mat or sliding across your kitchen floor in socks. The physiological questions are you raising your heart rate slightly above its resting baseline? Are you moving your joints through a diverse range of motion? Are you releasing endorphins by enjoying the rhythm of the song?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Then that completely satisfies the physiological requirement to signal robust wakefulness to your nervous system.
Fantastic. So the body is awake. We have our natural light, our rehydrated blood plasma, our kitchen dancing. Now we need to feed the machine.
Time for fuel.
Both physically and mentally. Let's transition from movement to the actual fuel you're putting in your engine, starting with breakfast.
This is where we have to talk about the glycemic index and blood sugar regulation. The fundamental rule extracted from all our nutritional and behavioral sources is prioritizing protein over refined carbohydrates in the morning.
Which, I won't lie, hurts to hear, because croissants, muffins, and bagels are delicious and convenient.
They are delicious and they offer a quick hit of dopamine, but they are also setting a massive biological trap for your energy levels.
How so?
When you eat a breakfast built predominantly on refined carbs, sugary cereals, a massive muffin, or white toast with a jam, your digestive system breaks those simple carbohydrates down into glucose extremely rapidly.
That hits the bloodstream.
Yes. This creates a massive, unnatural spike in your blood sugar.
And the body responds to that spike by panicking a little bit, right?
Absolutely. The pancreas detects this massive surge of glucose and secretes a large amount of insulin to quickly shuttle that sugar out of the blood and into the cells.
To bring the levels down.
Right. But because so much insulin is released so fast, it often overcorrects. This leads to a precipitous drop in blood sugar a few hours later. This is called reactive hypoglycemia.
So that's the crash.
That is the crash. You feel a quick burst of energy at 8 a.m., followed by a severe crashing fatigue around 10:02 or 11:30 a.m. You are left tired, jittery, unable to focus, and intensely hungry for more carbs to fix the crash.
It's a vicious cycle, whereas protein stabilizes the entire system.
Spot on. Protein takes much longer to digest. Foods like eggs, Greek yogurt, tofu, or black beans provide a steady, slow release of energy.
No spikes.
No spikes. They don't provoke that massive insulin surge. They stabilize your blood sugar, keep you satiated longer, and drastically reduce those mid-morning cravings.
There is a great story about Helena, a retired nurse, that perfectly illustrates the power of this simple swap.
Her case study is a classic.
It is. She suffered for years from this terrible daily 11 o'clock collapse. Her energy would just fall off a cliff, and she assumed it was just a natural part of aging.
Which is such a common assumption.
Right. But her routine was eating a sweet pastry with her coffee every morning. She swapped that pastry for 2 eggs and a piece of whole fruit. And that was the entire intervention.
Just a small change.
She didn't go on a dramatic, restrictive weight loss diet. She didn't buy expensive vitality supplements. She just changed the metabolic nature of her fuel. And it completely cured her fatigue. Her whole day reorganized itself around that better, more stable energy.
Because she finally stopped putting her endocrine system on a physiological roller coaster first thing in the morning. And, that brings us to the other major fuel source, the one people are probably most defensive about.
Yes, caffeine. The caffeine delay.
Proceed with caution here.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I think most of us view coffee as a personality trait, or at the very least, as the literal mechanism that makes us capable of waking up. If you tell people to mess with their coffee, they get very protective.
We do get protective, but we have to reframe it. Coffee is a tool. It is a chemical intervention, and deploying it strategically rather than reactively, it changes everything about your energy curve.
So what are we doing wrong?
Well, many people drink coffee the absolute second they wake up, often while they are still wiping the sleep from their eyes on a totally empty stomach.
Wait, let me push back here. If caffeine wakes you up, why wouldn't you want it immediately? Earlier, we talked about how cortisol naturally peaks in the morning to wake you up. If my natural alarm clock is ringing, why do I physically feel like a zombie who needs the coffee to even stand upright?
That is the crucial question, and it comes down to a molecule called adenosine.
Adenosine. Okay.
Adenosine is a neurotransmitter that builds up in your brain while you are awake, creating what we call sleep pressure. It makes you feel tired. When you sleep, your body clears out the adenosine.
So sleep washes it away.
Exactly. However, when you first wake up, there is often still some residual adenosine lingering in the brain. That is the grogginess you feel, the sleep inertia.
Okay, so there's leftover sleep juice in my brain.
Leftover sleep juice, yes.
Yeah.
Now, caffeine works by binding to the adenosine receptors in your brain, blocking the adenosine from fitting in.
It blocks it.
Right. It doesn't actually give you energy. It simply masks your fatigue. If you drink coffee immediately upon waking, you are blocking receptors that still have adenosine trying to clear out.
Oh, I see.
And you are dumping a stimulant into your system while your cortisol, your natural stimulant, is already naturally peaking.
So you are basically flooring the gas pedal while the car is already accelerating on its own.
Without a doubt. You interfere with that natural cortisol awakening process. You overstimulate the nervous system, which leads to jitteriness, anxiety, and a rapid building of caffeine tolerance.
And the crash.
Yes, the crash. Because that early coffee blocked the adenosine before it could naturally clear, once the caffeine wears off a few hours later, all that trapped adenosine floods the receptors all at once. That is the massive afternoon crash.
That makes perfect biological sense. So the strategic move is the 90-minute delay.
Yes. Delay your first cup of coffee by 60 to 90 minutes after waking.
90 minutes.
During that hour and a half, you hydrate, you get your sunlight, you move. These actions naturally clear out the residual adenosine. You let your natural cortisol peak do its job.
You let the body wake itself up first.
Right. Then, as your cortisol begins to dip slightly, you introduce the caffeine. The receptors are clear, the nervous system is stable, and the caffeine can now carry that sustained alertness smoothly into the late morning and afternoon without the severe crash.
It is a complete paradigm shift. Most people think immediate coffee prevents the crash, but it actually guarantees it. Hydration, light, and delayed caffeine actually provide sustained alertness.
You hydrate before you stimulate, your nervous system will be in a much calmer, more resilient place when the caffeine finally hits.
So the body is hydrated, fed with protein, and strategically alert. Now, the sources say we must turn our attention inward to the mind. We've protected it from the smartphone's beta wave assault, but now we need to actively cultivate something the texts call interiority.
Interiority. It is a beautiful, deeply necessary concept.
It sounds peaceful.
It is. Whether you choose to express it through meditation, journaling, prayer, or simply sitting in silence with your hands wrapped around a warm mug, the goal of interiority is exactly the same across all modalities. You are actively cultivating a state of equanimity.
Equanimity. I love that word, but it can sound a bit esoteric, right? Let's ground it. Explain what equanimity looks like neurologically and psychologically.
Neurologically, it involves increasing your parasympathetic tone. That means activating the rest and digest branch of your nervous system to balance out the sympathetic fight or flight branch.
So it's calming the system.
Right. Psychologically, it is a steady, grounded calm that does not rely on external circumstances being perfect. It means you are deeply anchored in yourself. You have a buffer between a stimulus and your response.
A buffer.
You are taking the intentional time to meet yourself, to check in with your own mind before you go out and meet the relentless demands of the world. In a modern culture that constantly demands our outward attention and productivity, claiming just a few minutes of interiority is a radical act of self-preservation.
And it doesn't have to be a 30-minute cross-legged meditation on a velvet cushion. I think that's where a lot of people give up. They think mindfulness requires massive chunks of time.
It really doesn't.
One of the sources outlines this brilliant, highly structured 5-minute reset. It is so approachable. Let's break it down because it only takes 5 minutes. It starts with 1 minute of slow, eyes-closed breathing.
Just 1 minute. The biological function here is stimulating the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
Yeah. By taking slow, deep breaths where the exhale is longer than the inhale, you send a physical signal from your diaphragm directly to your brain that you are safe. It settles the nervous system immediately.
Then the next 2 minutes are for writing in a notebook, and specifically answering 3 prompts.
Yeah.
1 thing you are grateful for, 1 thing you are worried about, and 1 daily intention.
Such a powerful trio.
I find the worry part fascinating, honestly. Why write down a negative thought? Doesn't that just give it power?
Actually, it does the exact opposite. Getting the worry out of your head and onto paper is incredibly powerful for reducing its cognitive weight. Yeah, because when a worry stays in your mind, your amygdala treats it as an active, unsolvable threat. It loops endlessly. By writing it down, you force your prefrontal cortex to articulate the fear, which instantly demystifies it.
You put a name to it.
Exactly. It moves the anxiety from an abstract, looming feeling to a tangible sentence on a page. You are quite literally offloading it.
That is undeniably effective. And then the final 2 minutes are just sitting quietly with whatever feelings arise, without judging them. Just existing, breathing normally for 2 minutes. 5 minutes total. No apps, no gurus, no subscriptions.
There is a profound story in the research about a software developer named Ravi who tried this specific reset.
Oh, Ravi, I loved this one.
He described himself as constitutionally allergic to meditation. He was a highly logical, data-driven guy who resisted any kind of mindfulness practice for weeks because it felt woo-woo and unproductive to him.
I completely relate to Ravi. The idea of just sitting still with my own thoughts sounds terrifying and inefficient sometimes. You feel like you should be doing something, you know?
It feels uncomfortable to a lot of people because we aren't used to our own company. But Ravi finally committed to this 5-minute reset, just 5 minutes a day. And a month later, he realized something staggering.
What was it?
He noted in his reflection, I had no idea I had been ignoring myself for so long.
Wow.
We spend so much of our waking lives drowning out our own internal voice with podcasts, music, notifications, and endless task lists. The morning mind routine, the interiority, is a deliberate, scheduled chance to actually listen to yourself.
It reminds me of the concept of a keystone habit. One of the researchers in our stack emphasizes how certain small behaviors act as the foundational architecture for broader life changes.
Very much so. A keystone habit is a foundational behavior that naturally triggers a cascade of other positive changes, almost without conscious effort.
A domino effect.
Right. It changes how you view yourself, which changes your subsequent decisions.
Yes. The sources highlight G1, a high school teacher in Seoul. She was overwhelmed, overworked, and unhealthy. She decided she wanted to implement just one single keystone habit, a 15-minute walk outside after breakfast.
Just a walk.
That was her entire ambition. She didn't set out to completely overhaul her life, but that one habit organically cascaded. Because she was walking, she started feeling better physically, so she naturally lost the craving to smoke.
Unintended benefits.
Right. Because she was outside getting natural light, she felt less stressed, and her theta window was protected, so she started reading books again instead of doom scrolling on the couch. She lost weight without obsessing over a diet. She even repaired a fractured, strained relationship with her sister because she started using those 15 minutes to call her.
That is the astonishing power of a keystone habit. All of those massive, life-altering changes were simply downstream of one simple 15-minute morning walk. It shifted her identity from someone who was surviving to someone who was proactive.
But this raises an important question. I want to push you on this. How do we actually design these habits so they survive past the first week?
The million-dollar question.
Because we've all been there. We get deeply inspired listening to a deep dive like this. We buy a new journal. We write out a perfect 2-hour morning routine. We execute it flawlessly for 4 days. And by Friday, we are hitting snooze 3 times, skipping the water, and eating a donut in the car.
This is the critical pivot in our entire discussion today. Because motivation is a fair weather friend.
It is so unreliable.
It is completely biologically unreliable. Motivation relies on dopamine, and dopamine spikes when a goal is novel, but drops off a cliff once the behavior becomes familiar.
So excitement fades.
Always. If you wake up and rely on sheer willpower to do your 5-minute reset or drink your water, your routine will inevitably collapse the moment you have a bad night's sleep, or a stressful week at work, or an argument with your partner. What we need instead is design.
Design over motivation. I really love that framing. It takes the moral failure out of it.
It does. The ultimate goal of a routine isn't to prove how much willpower you have. The goal is automaticity.
Automaticity. Making it automatic.
You want these positive behaviors to happen as automatically and thoughtlessly as putting on your seatbelt or brushing your teeth. To achieve automaticity, the basal ganglia, the habit center of the brain, needs to take over from the prefrontal cortex.
Right.
And to get the basal ganglia to accept a new routine, you must start ridiculously small. Do not try to install a multi-step, hour-long program overnight.
Right, you have to build the scaffolding first.
Exactly. We use a psychological tool called habit stacking, which relies on Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together, wire together.
Wire together, wire together.
You anchor your new fragile habit to an old rock-solid habit that you already do without thinking. For example, if you want to start doing a little movement, don't write down, "I will work out for 30 minutes." Your brain will resist that.
Too much friction.
Yes. Say, while I'm brushing my teeth, which I undeniably do every single morning anyway, I will do 10 air squats.
Or, while the coffee maker is brewing my delayed cup of coffee, I will stand in the kitchen and do my 1 minute of slow vagal nerve breathing. You are tying the new desired behavior to a physical trigger that already exists securely in your environment.
Spot on. You are piggybacking on existing neural pathways. And speaking of the environment design is your absolute strongest ally here. You want to manipulate friction,
Make the good things easy, the bad things hard.
decrease the friction for good habits, and increase the friction for bad ones. If you want to drink water first thing, you must put a full glass on your nightstand the night before. The affordance is right there.
It's staring at you.
If you want to stretch, you leave the yoga mat unrolled right next to your bed so you literally have to step on it to leave the room. If you want to read a book instead of scroll, put the book physically on your pillow in the morning and plug the smartphone charger in the bathroom or down the hall.
It's like setting out your gym clothes the night before. You're basically tricking your future groggy, sleep-drunk self into doing the right thing because you've entirely removed the friction. You don't have to make a choice. The choice is made for you.
You are offloading the cognitive burden from your prefrontal cortex's willpower to your physical environment. And when you inevitably mess up, because you are a biological human being, not a robot, you must follow the golden rule of habit formation.
Which is...
Never miss twice.
Never miss twice. That is so forgiving, yet so accountable at the same time.
It is the psychological antidote to catastrophizing. There is a phenomenon known as the what the hell effect.
Oh, I know this one well.
People often think, oh, I hit snooze today, I missed my water, I didn't write in my journal, I'm a failure, the whole system is broken, what the hell, I might as well eat a donut and give up.
Yes. The all-or-nothing mindset.
Exactly. Missing one day is normal variance. You traveled, you got sick, the baby kept you up, the power went out. But missing twice is how a habit dies. It is the beginning of a new negative neural pathway.
So get right back on track.
So if you miss Tuesday, you don't panic. You don't punish yourself. You just make absolutely 100% sure you execute the habit on Wednesday to protect the pathway.
These strategies, habit stacking, environment design, never missing twice, they are incredible. But we really need to address the elephant in the room here. What if your morning is total, unavoidable chaos?
It's a reality for so many.
What if you don't have the luxury of a peaceful, controlled environment? We are talking to people who have demanding toddlers, people who work irregular night shifts, people who live in noisy, multi-generational homes, or people who are battling severe clinical burnout where just getting 2 feet out of bed feels like climbing Everest.
This is such a vital point, and I'm really glad you brought it up. The science of chronotypes and habit formation can sound very privileged if we don't ground it in reality. We have to adapt the science for less than ideal, messy human realities.
So how do we adapt it?
The central takeaway from the behavioral sources here is that the function of a routine matters infinitely more than the form.
Form versus function. Let's really drill down into that because I think it will liberate a lot of people listening.
The form is what the routine visually looks like from the outside. A tech billionaire sitting on a velvet cushion, meditating for an hour in a temperature-controlled, silent room overlooking the ocean is a specific form.
Very specific.
A single mother hiding in a locked bathroom for 3 minutes of intentional silence with her cup of coffee before her toddlers realize she is awake is a completely different form. But the function, the psychological centering, the deliberate pausing, the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, the cultivation of equanimity is absolutely identical.
Wow. They're doing the exact same psychological work, just in vastly different circumstances.
Without a doubt. If your life is exceptionally hard right now, you do not lower the practice. You do not abandon the need for interiority. You just lower the bar of the form.
Lower the bar of the form.
A 2-minute routine is still a scientifically valid routine. Taking one deliberate deep breath before opening your bedroom door to face a chaotic household is a routine. We have these rapid-fire real stories in the sources that perfectly illustrate this flexibility.
Well, let's run through them because they're so grounding. First, there's the story of the father. He was a man who lived his entire adult life tense, hurried, always rushing to the next obligation.
And chronically stressed.
Yeah, he finally retired, and he didn't start a massive biohacking protocol. He started a tiny, incredibly simple ritual. Every morning at 6 a.m., he walked down the street to the local bakery, bought a single plain roll, and sat at a small table to read the physical newspaper with a cup of hot tea.
Sounds lovely.
No smartphone apps, no life-hacking philosophies, just quiet. And his family noted in the case study that over a few months, he became a demonstrably softer, slower, more present, more patient person.
Because he reclaimed the architecture of his day through one simple action. The function was peace, and he achieved it through the form of a bakery roll and a newspaper.
Then there is Amara, a graduate student who was battling severe, paralyzing anxiety. Her routine. She couldn't handle a 30-minute meditation. She wrote just 3 sentences in a notebook every morning. That's it.
3 sentences.
But over time, that notebook became a psychological mirror. By externalizing her fears, remember the amygdala offloading we discussed? She learned to outlisten her anxiety instead of trying to medicate it away or numb it with endless hours of screen time.
The function of her routine was profound self-awareness and emotional regulation, achieved through the simplest, lowest friction form possible.
And finally, Tomas, the restaurant owner whose business was on the absolute verge of collapsing. The financial and operational stress was literally eating him alive. He was waking up at 4 a.m. in a panic.
Total survival mode.
Exactly. His morning routine change wasn't about adding meditation. It was a firm boundary. He stopped checking his reservation system and his emails before 9 a.m. Instead, he woke up, cooked a simple protein breakfast for his kids, and walked his dog around the block. That was it.
He took his morning back.
By reclaiming his morning, by protecting his wet cement, he built the mental resilience and the prefrontal cortex bandwidth to face his massive business problems without being completely emotionally controlled by them. The business survived, by the way, because he finally had the clarity to make good decisions.
These stories prove that the transformative power isn't in the complexity, the length, or the aesthetic of the routine. It is entirely in the consistency and the intentionality behind it.
The profound takeaway here for you, the learner listening to this deep dive, is this. Small is not weak.
Say that again. Small is not weak.
A small, consistent, 2-minute morning routine that is authentically yours, that fits your chaotic life, undeniably beats a massive, perfect 2-hour routine that you abandoned after 5 days.
Absolutely. Consistency is everything.
So to synthesize this entire mission for you, to bring all the science together, you do not need a mountaintop. You do not need to join the 4 Bright AM Club to be a successful, functioning, happy human being.
Leave the 4 a.m. alarm behind.
Wake up when it makes biological sense for your specific chronotype. Protect the wet cement of your waking brain from the screaming strangers of the internet.
Don't look at the phone.
Give your physical body natural light in your eyes, a large glass of room temperature water to restore blood volume, and a little gentle movement to lubricate the joints. Delay your caffeine by 90 minutes to let the adenosine clear. Feed your physical engine with blood sugar stabilizing protein, and feed your mental engine with just a few minutes of quiet equanimity before you finally surrender your attention to the glowing rectangle of your smartphone.
Because if you string enough of those small intentional mornings together, you aren't just changing your first hour, you are changing the fundamental neurological architecture of your entire day, and by extension, your entire life.
But I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. Something that wasn't explicitly covered in the daytime protocols, but the logical next step.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We've talked so much about how critical the first 30 minutes of the day are for setting that wet cement, for guiding those theta waves into a positive beta state. But what do you think the last 30 minutes before you close your eyes are doing to your brain while you sleep?
That's a huge question.
If you fall asleep scrolling through a timeline of disasters, what kind of chemical stress footprint is cementing overnight while you dream? Maybe, just maybe, the perfect frictionless morning routine actually starts at 10:00 p.m. the night before.
That is a brilliant point for reflection. The runway for a smooth morning takeoff might actually be paved the night prior.
Something to explore and experiment with on your own. If this deep dive helped you rethink your morning, if it explained why you feel that 11 a.m. crash, or gave you even one tiny habit to try out tomorrow, please take a second to like this video, share it with a fellow night owl who needs to be let off the hook for sleeping past 5:00 a.m., and subscribe to this YouTube channel so we can keep bringing you these custom deep dives. Tomorrow morning is yours to claim. We'll see you next time.